Okay guys, welcome back to the tutorial. So as we've said during the intro part, we are going to generate a new Spring Boot project using IntelliJ. So quickly, let's go straight ahead. Let's get started. So now I go to File and I go to New and I go to Project. So here I have, you can see the option here, Spring Initializer. So here we choose this option and I'm going to leave everything here on default. Just leave all the defaults here. So I'm going to click Next. So next here, I'm going to give our project a group ID, which is com.jvs code. So this is the group ID. So the name of this application is going to be Customers Management System, but that name is very long, so I'm going to make it short by saying CM Systems. So we have CM System here. Yeah, CM System, which is Customers Management System. And right here, I'm going to leave all these defaults. I'm going to leave them here. So here is the description. Yeah, the description. But this one doesn't really matter. But let's just make something there. A simple. Let's give it a simple name. A simple. Simple what? Simple customer management system, right? Management system. So this is simple customer management system. So I'm going to leave all this default here and I'm going to click on Next. So next we are going to choose the dependencies we need for our project. So the number one dependency I will choose here, let's go to Web. Here we are going to have the Spring Web. Because we are creating a web application, so this is the dependency we need to create a complete web application. You can see some other dependencies that this one here comes with. So having this one here, we have all other dependencies that we need for creating web application. So we are going to choose this, and the second one we are going to go specify our database by going to SQL. So we are going to choose MySQL, and we are going to also choose Spring Data JPA here. So we choose this. So here, these are the basic dependencies we need to create a complete web application. Then the last one here, I'm going to also choose Lombok to help us eliminate boiler code, so we don't need to generate getter setters everywhere. So we just use Lombok to make our code a little bit cleaner. So basically these are the dependencies we need right now to create this application. But as time goes on, if there is need to add any other dependency, we can always do that. So here I'm going to click Next and take a quick check at all this information here. So they are correct. Everything is correct. So we are going to click on Finish. So now you can see that our application has been generated. We have successfully generated a brand new Spring application using IntelliJ. So we are going to close the Maven window and we are going to open up our project. So here we can see our main class here. This is our main class, and you can see our Spring Boot application. So we have successfully generated our new application. So quickly, I'm going to create a new package here. So let's create a new package called Entity. which is going to contain all the entity classes we are going to have in this project is going to be inside this package. So I'm going to call this package entities. Yeah, I'm going to make it entities here, and I click OK. A lot of people do name this like model, like domain, a lot of things like that, but I just like saying entities. So now I'm going to right click on this entity package and create a new Java class. So I'm going to call this class customer, and we're going to hit enter to finish. So now we have gotten the customer class, and remember this class is going to serve as a table in our database with the same name here. So what information we need from the customer? So here we are going to do private long ID, the customer ID, which is long, and we are going to do string, the customer. We need the customer name, or maybe the first name, and also we're going to have another string of the last name here, and we're going to have another string that will take the customer's email address, and also another string to take the customer's mobile number, and another string to take the customer's country, which is basically the address. We collected the address of the customer. This is a string, also string, and another string here. We're going to have another string to take the city of the customer, where is it from, and finally we're going to have another string here to take the street, the name of the street, and the number of the street, which means the address. So we are going to have the address, and we are going to, let's just quickly implement this to make it implement serializable, because we are going to be changing our data to different formats in our browser and Postman, stuff like that. So now we are going to, how do we tell Hibernate that this class is going to serve as a table in our database? So we are going to specify the entity annotation. We're going to tell Hibernate that this class is an entity class, so it should treat it like as an entity. So we are going to tell Hibernate that this class is an entity class and it should be treated as an entity. So here we are going to specify the ID here, so we're going to specify the primary key of this entity, which means the ID, that is the ID of the customer. So now we are specifying, the ID of this entity, the primary key of the entity, which is the customer's ID. And how do we get value? How do we get value for this ID? We are not going to enter value manually, so we are going to auto-generate this ID as a primary key. So we're going to auto-generate the value for this. So now we are going to do a generated value. So we can simply leave it like this, it's going to work fine, but I'm just going to specify the strategy here. So the strategy is generated type.identity. That's what I want to use. So there are a lot of options here. You can see a lot of, we have a couple of options here. You can exploit all these according to what you want, but it depends on the database you are using and the strategy you want. But right here we just need it simple. Let's just have it as identity here for now. And so that's it. So here, remember, all these ones here are going to serve as columns in the database, in the table, our table columns in the database. And here, there's something I want to do here. This email is going to be unique. We're going to make it unique. So because of that, it's going to be a natural ID. Let's make it natural ID. And also the mobile is going to be natural ID. Because we don't want two customers, we don't want different customers to enter the same phone number, or different customer, two different customers to have the same email address. So we want to make them unique. So by specifying this as a natural ID, it makes it unique. So it's a unique, it cannot be duplicated. And every other thing here, we no need of specifying the name of the columns. This one by default, the columns are going to be this name by default in our database. So that's it. There's something I want to do here. So I'm going to specify the name of the table. I'm going to specify the name of the table. So which basically the customers, right? Customers. Actually, this one here, this one is, there's no need, it's not required. It's not required. This is optional because Hibernate is going to create the table based on this name here. But the reason why I like specifying this name explicitly is because, for example, should anyone come here to rename this table to another name, so that our application will not break. You understand? So the reason why, if we give this alias here, and this table was renamed, our application is still going to run just fine because it's going to be working with this name, not this name anymore. That's why I like specifying this for safety purposes. So I'm going to leave all this one here basically the way they are, but I'm going to use Lombok here. So I'm going to specify a data so we can have non-arg constructors and arg constructors, and or the basic getter and setters we need here. So there are a lot of configuration to this. We can configure this to eliminate some things, to remove some things here, not to generate some things here. But for now, we're just going to leave it, generic like this. Just leave it like this, so that if there is any need of configuration later, we can configure it. But for now, we're leaving it like this. So basically, this is what we need to create our entity in our database, to create our table in our database. Now, before we test run this application, we are going to specify a couple of things here in this application .properties files. So we are going to specify the properties, what we need Hibernate to do, how we want Hibernate to treat our table in the database. We're going to specify it here. So quickly, I'm going to paste some code here. So now this is the port. Basically, this is the port the application will be listening on the browser later. And we are going to specify the name of our database here, which is basically customer. That is CM system, right? So we're just going to say CM system DB. Sorry, this is DB. CM system DB, which is customer management system database. Now here the user is the name of this, is the username, and this is the password here. Okay, and here we have, if you look at this Hibernate DDL auto, I set it to update. We have a couple of options here, like 4. So for example, if we set this to create, for example, oh sorry, my bad. So if we set this to create, which means every time we run this application, our table is going to be recreated, which means we are going to lose every information in the table. but we wouldn't want that to happen. We don't want to do that. So because of that, we have to want to specify this as update. Update means create this table once, and at every subsequent running, check if there are any changes here. For example, if we remove any columns, or remove any attributes, or add any attribute, or rename any attribute, it's going to be updated. When we run, it's going to be updated in the database. So that is the purpose of this, and that is what we'll be using. And here we set this to true, so that when application runs, we are going to see what Hibernate is doing behind the scene, how our table is going to get created. You know, the code, we're going to see the code. So having said that, we are going to test run our application and see what happened in the database. And okay, let's test run our application and see what happens. Let's run it right here. Okay, so now let's look at what is going on here. Okay, oops, we got an error. Okay, oh sorry, on no database. Oh sorry, our database, this database is not yet created. We have not created, sorry, my bad, I have not created this database here. Okay, the database name is not yet created. So let's open up SQL Workbench and MySQL Workbench and create the schema. So I create new schema and just paste the name there and click apply. Apply and finish. Yes, and finish. So this one is finished creating already. So if we look here, let's refresh, and okay, here we have system, our database here. So I'm going to set this as default, so it can easily be found. Now we have gotten CM system DB here as the name was specified, and if we open up, we see that there is nothing inside here, no table, no view, no nothing, just empty schema. So now let's rerun our application and see what happened this time around. Okay, you see, Hibernate has created a table in the database called customers here. So let's go back to our MySQL Workbench and refresh. Let's refresh this, and you can see that we have gotten a table created for us. Now let's see what is inside. So now we have the ID, the address, the city, the country, the email, the first name, the last name, the mobile, contact. Exactly what we specify here that we have there. So far so good. We have successfully generated our Spring Boot applications, and we have successfully created our first entity class, and we have also successfully tell Hibernate to make it as a table in our database, and everything is done perfectly. So in our next video, we are going to start creating the controller classes, the service classes, and the repositories, so that we can actually start sending and receiving data from our database. All right guys, thank you for watching and stay tuned. See you in the next video. Thank you.